we've never met. Maybe you know me through Teacher Creature, or maybe you know me through Fluent Faster. Either way, good evening. Thanks for joining us. In a second, we're going to talk with Harry, but I wanted to give you a short introduction of how I met Harry and how I got the idea for this podcast, for this webinar. So I've been a teacher, private teacher, for 10 years, and I often tell my students, look, I think I'm a good teacher, but if you really want to learn fast, go to the UK, go to the US, but the UK, it's 90 minutes away. The airport's 45 minutes away. That's the fastest way to learn. And in my 10 years of teaching, exactly three students have taken my advice. One guy, I didn't see him, unfortunately, after he went. A second student, she only went for a week, and I noticed a big improvement in her confidence and her speaking. That was a few years ago. And recently, in fact, just Sunday, one of my students returned from 2 weeks with Harry. And I spoke with her via Skype on Monday, and 2 weeks made a difference. She wasn't perfect. Nobody's ever perfect, but she didn't, I could tell she didn't have to think as much before she spoke. She just spoke easier, and her voice sounded more confident. So I could just hear the difference that 2 weeks made with Harry. And as I mentioned in the emails, if you read some of my emails, there are a lot of language schools out there. So why are we talking with Harry tonight? So this, let me tell you another story. I was in Dublin a few years ago for a wedding. Irish friend was getting married. And one night we were hanging out in a pub, and we started talking to the Spanish guy, and he was there on a language program. And we asked him about it, and he said they had some grammar classes in the morning, and that was it. And it was like 9 o'clock at night, and he was just hanging out at the bar by himself, listening to some Irish music. And I got to talking with more people. I was staying in a hostel, and a lot of the other people staying in the hostel were from all over Europe, and also doing some language program. And they weren't speaking English. They had their morning classes, and then they went and hung out with their other Italian or Korean or Russian friends. And they went all the way to Ireland, and they had about 3 or 4 hours of English, and not even interesting English, like grammar classes. So I thought, like, that just wasn't a good use of time or money or anything. But Harry's program is not just a little different, it's a lot different. I think it's very unique. The students actually live in the house, and that's what we're gonna find out more about now. So Harry, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Ryan. Yeah, thank you for having me.
How's the weather in Leeds tonight?
It's actually pretty good. It's really cold, but it's been sunny all day. The students went away to a different city called Harrogate, about 25 minutes by train. And yeah, they got to have a look around the gardens, see this really old tea room, and they didn't get rained on once. So yeah, really lucky.
Okay. Have to ask about the weather. It's a typical English question. So Harry, let's start with, why don't you tell us who you are and what is your background? What were you doing before English Steps?
Sure. Okay. So my name's Harry. I founded English Steps just nearly 3 years ago now. And it started because when I was 21 or 22, I couldn't speak any other languages. So I could speak English fine, but I really wanted to be able to speak any other language, French, Spanish, Italian, just something. I tried to learn living in England. So I went to classes, I tried listening tapes, watching films, everything, and I just never improved. Partly it was because of my lack of enthusiasm, so I used to get bored pretty quickly, learning from tapes. But also I just found it very difficult. And then finally, when I was just nearly 22, I quit my job and I just moved to France. And I spent 2 months in France, just outside Paris. And it was a really, really great experience. I learned French in 1 month that I think it would have taken me 2 or 3 years of studying at home. And more importantly than that was I was enjoying it and I was enthusiastic about it, because when I could see that I was actually living in France, talking to French people, and they were responding to me, it made me want to learn even more and to improve even faster. Whereas learning at home in England, I would learn a little bit, but I wouldn't have anything to say, okay, now you need to learn more, you've enjoyed it. So yeah, that's why I started English Steps. And after that, I then took up English teaching as a career. I spent 3 years living in different countries in Europe and also teaching in England. And then finally decided to start at my own school 3 years ago.
So you've been doing this for 3 years?
Running this school, it turns 3 years old next month. Yeah, that's right.
And how did you get the idea for the school? Why this kind of program and why not like a regular school?
So it was partly because of my experience of learning French and Spanish and Italian. I'm sorry, I can't speak, well, I can only speak a few words of Czech. But I knew that for me, to learn a language, I had to be completely immersed in the country and the culture, as well as the language. So I thought it'd be great to do something like that for people who wanted to learn English, so that they could come and just completely culturally, language-wise, and all day just be speaking English. And so that's what I tried to do.
So it was based on your experience of living in France?
Yeah, living in France and also living in Spain. And also when I was teaching in Spain, seeing the students spend a lot of time and learning a lot of grammar, getting very good at the grammar, but always thinking that if they came for 2 weeks, they could improve really dramatically and go back to Spain with something really special. Knowing that that would be possible, that's why I set it up.
Okay. So you've kind of recreated the environments that you experienced.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I've tried to create an authentic English experience here. We really focus on getting students to speak all the time, all day, in natural environments. So they have classes in the morning, then in the afternoons and the evenings. It can be in shops, it can be going on trips like they did earlier today, and it can just be going to the pub with the teachers and talking.
So let's talk about the program now and the students. So let's start with the students. So typically, who are they? Where are they from? How many do you have?
Okay, so we have a large house. It's got 15 bedrooms, and in summer we have an extra house as well. So we have a capacity for up to
15 bedrooms.
15 bedrooms. It's huge.
That's a huge house.
Yeah, it's barely a house. And in summer we have extra houses for more students, because July and August are very popular times to come. Students, we concentrate only on adults. That's because it's my passion as well. It's because I didn't start learning a language until I was 21. I feel that it's a really beautiful thing to learn something completely new, even when you're a bit older. I think we concentrate too much on children and teenagers sometimes. And it's a mixture of different nationalities. So right now we have students from Italy, Spain, India, Chile. There's one from Bolivia and one person coming from Turkey. So it's
all the way from Bolivia.
Yeah, all the way from Bolivia. Yeah. So it's a big mixture, and it's also a mixture of ages. So we have some students who are 19, they're the youngest here at the moment. And we have other students, I think the oldest right now is about 45 years old. So we have a big mixture all around.
And what is their motivation? Is it for work, for school?
I'd say we get, most people come because they realize that English is important for their career to improve their job prospects. So we get two types of students. We get a lot of students who come after university before they get their first job to give themselves a better CV when applying for their first job. And then we get a lot of students who come and they're actually working at the moment, but they take a holiday, spend 1 or 2 weeks here, intensive learning, and then they go back to their job. Either they use the English in their job or they use it to suggest a pay rise or promotion or something like that in the future.
Mm-hmm. So they put on their CV that they spent a few weeks with you.
Yeah, we provide a certificate when the students leave to say that they've been living here and attending the classes. And yeah, they put it on their CV. There's also a lot of things that they can do here that goes on their CV. So for example, today, one of our students volunteered in a shop, serving customers and preparing the goods. And so now he can put on his CV that he's worked in an English shop.
One day in an English shop.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about typical day. So you said they have classes in the morning and there's an activity every afternoon. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
So it's typical.
Okay, a typical day would be wake up and have breakfast just with the other students. And then lessons run from 9 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock.
So speaking starts already at breakfast. You come downstairs, you have breakfast with somebody from Bolivia, you have breakfast with somebody from Spain.
Exactly. The English television is on, the radio is playing, there's newspapers, magazines, all those kind of things to give you.
Everybody's common language is English, so.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I should say. The house is only English speaking. If somebody speaks a language that isn't English, then they have to do the washing up and the cleaning for the day.
So you have a rule, English rule.
Yeah. So it's very easy to stop people speaking another language.
That is, Harry, you should put that on your website. That's very interesting.
We keep it a secret until people arrive and then we quickly tell them. But yeah, so it's very easy to keep it English speaking. So they have breakfast and then lessons start at 9 o'clock. Each morning, they have 3 different teachers to try and give people a range of different styles, different accents, and just different ways of teaching as well.
Where are the teachers from?
Teachers are most are from England, but we also have some teachers from America and one from Canada.
Mm-hmm. And these are typical lessons, right? Like you mentioned, they're not textbook, boring grammar lessons.
No. Because we have really small groups in our lessons, so a maximum of 4 or 5 students per lesson, we basically tailor the lesson to the students there. So if one person really wants to learn about reported speech or business English, we can tailor the lesson so that we'll be teaching them and then also the other students what they want to learn, because there's so much speaking time and contact time with the teachers. Mm-hmm. So we use textbooks, but we don't have a set textbook that we use for everyone. Rather, we bring in what we think works and what we think don't work. And we let teachers use videos, radio, anything that they want to make it more interesting.
And here we just have a question from Gabby, who wants to know, how do you teach students with different levels?
So there's a level test when students come, and we also test them when they arrive. And basically, if they don't have a level that matches the other students in the group, we just put them either into a separate group or we offer them one-to-one lessons instead.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Tell us about that, because my student who just got back, let's call her Pavla. Uh, so she did the group lessons and she did the private one-to-ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Pavla did a slightly different course. So we also run an intensive business course. So she did the lessons in the group in the mornings. And then as the business course, you then have 3 hours of one-to-one tuition with teachers on topics of business. So it might be applying for jobs or making presentations or doing surveys, things that are just related to business.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can get even more intensive in the intensive program if you want.
Yeah, you can always buy extra lessons with us.
Mm-hmm.
So if you've had the group lessons, but you want to do something really specific just for you, it might be legal English or medical English, for example, we can arrange those lessons in the afternoon, no problem.
Mm-hmm. And a question from Fabrizio. So wants to know about activities in class.
Activities in the class?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the class, we realize that most students come with quite a good knowledge of grammar. So we try and get people to be speaking most of the time and listening in the class. So we try and make it interesting because it's 3.5 hours every day of classes. So we mix it with games, role plays, some drama. Sometimes we might have a book club, so we might ask students to come and read a section of a book as their homework, and then we have a discussion in the class.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's anything that involves grammar or reading and writing, we try and give as homework so that when they are in the class and there's only 4 of them and 1 teacher, they can spend that time being corrected on pronunciation, speaking, and listening.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Okay, so morning classes are over. It's lunchtime.
Okay, so morning class is finished, and we have a chef called Steve from America who prepares the lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as the lessons are finished, we sit down at the table together. Can be quite a lot of us, especially in summer, can be kind of 10 people, 11 people eating for lunch. Mm-hmm. And we'll sit down and we'll have a meal together. Sometimes we discuss the vocabulary from yesterday's activity at lunch. So we might have, in fact, there's a list here, I don't know if you can see on the board here, but that's the list of some of the vocabulary we had in the past couple of days. So we might talk about the general conversation. And then after about an hour of lunchtime, we're then ready to do the activities in the afternoon. So we try and offer different opportunities for people. So we offer kind of work experience-based activities. So that might be working in a shop, it might be helping in a cafe, or we also work with a care home very close to here with elderly people that live there. And we run a conversation club. So you can go and just make friends with them, have a conversation in English with the people living in the care home. Mm-hmm. The other option each afternoon is to go on a trip. So we might go to a museum. We have an industrial museum here, art galleries, museums about the history of Leeds. We might go to one of those, or we might go to another city. We might go to Manchester or York. And all the time, whatever activity you're doing, you're accompanied with a native English speaker who is there to help you improve your English and is writing down vocabulary that you're learning. And when they come back, they give me the vocabulary, and then that's what forms the next day's discussion at lunch.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Question from Marep. So the question is, what distinguishes your school from others? Or do you know of other schools where you live with a teacher? Maybe.
I know there was one school that I knew in Northern Ireland where you don't live with a teacher, you do live with a native English speaker. But I suppose we're different in the respect that students come and they live not only with one teacher, but there's two teachers living here and also two native speakers. So there's four people whose native language is English living here for you to talk to and to ask questions to all the time. And I think that, as well as the work that we do with charities and volunteer organisations, I think that makes us different, because we don't want students to just come and experience our school because they've flown to England. So we want them to experience England as a cultural thing as well, to give them enthusiasm for learning more English. So we encourage people to go to private lessons, salsa dancing or yoga in English, or go and work in the local community with a voluntary organisation helping renovate local gardens. Anything like that that exposes people to really authentic English conversation.
So they're actually using their English. It's not just it's not just the classroom. There's the classroom, but then they get outside and they have to use it in practical situations.
Exactly. Yeah. So when we go on a trip, I ask the native speakers on the trip to not buy the tickets. They don't ask the questions at the tourist information centre. And if they get lost, then it's the students that ask direction from the other people in England.
That's so yeah, they're active the whole time. They're not passive.
Yeah.
They're not. Yeah, so I think that's very different from experience. Even traveling, like so many of my students travel in groups with their friends, and one person's the leader, one person who has the best English will just take care of everything, and they're just passive. They're not communicating. Maybe they ask the waiter for another drink, but like no English the whole trip. So
yeah, I've done the same when I've been traveling with friends of mine.
Yeah. So Harry, let's switch and maybe talk about what students can expect. So what minimum stay is 1 week. It's Sunday to Sunday, but they can stay longer. And how much time do you recommend students stay? How much progress can they expect in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? What's your experience?
Okay, yeah. So in 1 week or 2 weeks, the main thing that you would get from here is confidence and fluency. I think there's just a big change in your thinking time. When you spend 1 week or 2 weeks just speaking English all day, you stop having to spend 5 seconds thinking of the correct word or thinking of the correct way to respond to people. It becomes a little bit more instant. And that's great. It's really good to see, especially quieter students. They improve very quickly here, because without speaking English, nothing really works here. You have to speak English if you want to go on a trip or if you want to speak to the other students. And that's we want that to happen. We want it to be difficult not to speak English.
That's a great way.
2 weeks is 2 weeks is a great time to spend if you're going to work really hard in those 2 weeks. That's fine. Our record so far is 8 months. So we had one student from Spain come and live here for 8 months.
Did he improve?
And obviously that experience is a bit different, because they're here for so long that they really get such a deep understanding of English that it's great to see the improvement as they go along. But I would say it's less drastic, because if you're here for 2 weeks, you get a very sharp improvement in your confidence and your fluency. The longer you stay, I think the deeper your understanding, but also it's a more gradual improvement. After you get to a certain level, you then have to just go a bit slower from there. But yeah, that's quite rare. I'd say the average stay is probably 1 month, I would say.
Average, really? But you notice, and the student notices changes after 1 week, after 2 weeks.
Yeah, massively. And we do a test when students leave as well, so that they can compare the two. They have a speaking test when they arrive and a speaking test when they leave, and we record them so that they can hear the difference in their speaking.
Wow, that would be cool to Harry, why don't you have that on your website? That would be so cool to see that. I mean, that's proof.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's quite a few things that I should probably put on my website that aren't there at the moment. Yeah.
And speaking of your website, well, I won't share it now, but at the end, of course, I'll give links to Harry's website and email. And we'll do a tour of the house at the very end. So I want to keep this webinar short, 45 minutes exactly. Let's try. And so any other questions from our listeners? Fabrizio asks, why didn't you call it English Leaps instead of English Steps?
Leeds.
Leaps, like
Yeah. That's not a bad question. Actually, it's because my really good friends is living in Prague now, and she's called Stepanka, and her name is Step, and so yeah, it's kind of a play on her name. It's English Steps, because it was one of my friends that I met, and she was learning English, and yeah, that's the story behind the name.
Oh, okay, so based on a friend.
Yeah.
In her honor. Okay. And let's talk about maybe Leeds. So I think a lot of students, when they think of going to the UK, they think of London, or if they think of Ireland, they think of Dublin. But you say that Leeds is better. Why?
Yeah, okay. So I think Leeds is better, not just because it's where I'm more or less where I'm from. I think, first of all, economically, it's a lot cheaper than London. I mean, the cost of a beer, for example, is basically half the price in Leeds than it is in London. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, you just have a lot more space to develop your learning, and a lot more native speakers living here in Leeds. As everyone will know, when you visit London, the majority of people are not from England, not from London. Don't get me wrong, it's a great city to visit. And we do visit it. Students go, it's 2 hours, 20 minutes on the train. So students tend to go for a weekend, they go and visit London. Mm-hmm. But I think just for tranquility and calm, Leeds is much nicer. Leeds is in the center of the country. So anything that you want to visit is very close. You have the sea, just 1 hour and 20 minutes. You have Scotland, 2 hours and 40 minutes. You have the parks that are only 30 minutes. And then, like I said, you have London if you want to go, which is 2 hours and 20 minutes by train.
So it's cheaper, and in fact, it's more English than London.
Yeah.
And do you take any trips to the sea?
Yeah, we do. Less trips now in the winter, but actually I'm from the coast. I'm from a town called Scarborough, and you can take the train, and it takes 1 hour 20 minutes from Leeds. And so we organise trips to the sea, sometimes in the weekend or sometimes in the afternoon. Nobody goes swimming because it's seriously cold water. It's interesting to see a seaside town in England, something a bit different.
Even in the summer, it's seriously cold.
Yeah, I mean, I encourage people to go swimming, but even in the summer, the temperature of the sea is seriously cold. Yeah, It doesn't really warm up.
So no surfing in Scarborough.
You can try it, but you have to run into the sea. You can't walk into the sea. It's too cold.
Okay. And speaking of the winter, what are the advantages of coming and staying in the winter? So I imagine you said there's fewer students. And the course. Yeah, the course is quieter in winter. So if you're wanting to spend, I suppose, just a little bit more quality time with the teachers and meet less students at one time, then winter's a better idea. Mm-hmm. And also because of the weather and how quickly it gets dark, we tend to do more activities that are based inside, and we tend to go into other organizations more. So less trips to the seaside and trips to different towns, and more going into other organizations
working with them, more private lessons like painting or photography or cooking, for example.
Interesting. Okay. And what is the price difference? So the regular season is from when to when, and when is?
So the kind of peak season, the more expensive season, is in July and August, and then outside of that, we have two prices. We have one price range which is basically September to February, and it can be up to, it's nearly half price compared to July and August.
Really?
But it depends how long you stay. So that's for the longer time you spend here, the cheaper it is per week. So it goes down to £200 per week.
Okay, so the winter price is £200 per week.
If you stay for a long time, yeah, it's a 3-month stay that.
Okay, so let's say if somebody just has 1 or 2 weeks free in this December or January or February, and they just want to come over to do English.
So it's £325 for 1 or 2 weeks stay. Yeah.
So let me quickly convert that into Czech crowns. Is anybody here? I think one of our listeners our guest is from Italy. Is everyone else Czech? If you want to type into the chat box where you're from, that would be helpful while I get the conversion rate. So you said it's 350, Harry?
325.
325. And that includes everything?
So that includes, accommodation, lessons, activities, everything.
Okay. So that's 12,500 crowns per week. That's cheaper than me. Should I be laughing?
And then we also do, I probably should say, we also do other types of courses. So the business course is something that's more expensive because you have the extra tuition. And we also do a kind of accommodation only course where students come and they don't take the lessons, but they do the activities and the events. So then they're cheaper.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Harry, two listeners commented on your accent that you don't sound like you're from Leeds. Is that correct? I'm not an expert in the British accents. You've got tons.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm from close to Leeds. I'm from Scarborough, so yeah, we have a similar accent. It's all in the same region. The region's Yorkshire, but yeah, it's true. I think teaching for maybe 5 or 6 years now, I've been teaching.
That does it.
The accent goes because you're so used to pronouncing very clearly everything. I hope. So yeah, I don't have a very strong accent.
When I meet Americans in Prague, when I say I'm from America, sometimes they don't believe me.
Yeah. When I go back and I speak to my friends in my hometown, they all laugh at my accent. So that's cool.
Yeah. So teachers lose their accents.
Yeah.
Good or bad, I don't know. Okay. I think we've got about 10 minutes left. We can maybe do the tour soon.
Yeah, I'll just get it onto my mobile phone to show you around. I think actually the guys are just cooking, so we might catch them just when they're preparing spaghetti carbonara.
That'll be good.
And that's something we haven't said actually, is that also part of the culture of this experience is that in the evening we cook together. So we have a rota. You don't have to cook, so don't worry if you can't cook. But if you want to cook, you sign on a board what you want to cook, and you'll get help from other people, and then we all eat the evening meal together. And I suppose that's part of sharing where you're from, and sharing some English cooking as well, although it's not very famous for our great cuisine. But yeah, that's part of it as well.
Good. Okay, so before you give the tour, one more question. Fabrizio wants to know Skype lessons. You offer Skype lessons. How much do they cost?
Hi, sorry.
You're on your phone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Well,
So Skype lessons.
it's
Can
not so
you hear me?
loud now, Harry.
All right. Sorry.
Maybe get a little closer.
Don't know how close I go. So Skype lessons, they are £12.50 for conversational lessons and £20 per hour for professional lessons. We do these two types of lessons just based on how much preparation the teacher has to do for the lesson.
So £12, 50p for regular lessons, conversation, and then £20 if it's business English or professional English, something like that.
Yeah, if it's exam preparation or they want something really specific with grammar, then it would be the £20 per hour, yeah.
Okay, good. And okay, one more thing before you give us this tour. Harry and I discussed earlier to give listeners of this webinar an extra incentive. So if you, I think, Harry, this is going to be a 1 week offer until Sunday night. So do you want to explain it?
Yeah, until Sunday midnight. If you contact me before then and want to make a booking, then what we can offer is an extra 1 hour individual lessons per day if you come and stay with us. So that'll be free, no extra cost for that.
So if you leave a deposit before Sunday midnight, then you get the winter discount price and also 1 extra private lesson per day.
Yeah, and that's 1-to-1 with a teacher, so you'll definitely have a lot of speaking time.
That sounds like a good deal to me. If I didn't already speak English, I would be at the airport. And so for everybody, I'll send out Harry's link and email tomorrow morning, so you can just contact him if you have any questions, and if you're interested, make arrangements with him. And if it's not interesting for you, he also has Christmas vouchers, so if you want to send your friends and family off to Leeds, then that's also another possibility. Okay, so if there's no more questions, do you want to give us the tour? Show us around the house, Harry.
All right, ready for the tour. So tell me if you can still hear me. Can you hear me now? Okay.
So far, so good?
Yeah? Okay, right. So I'm just leaving the teaching room, one of the teaching rooms we use. I'll try and explain where we're going. So the first thing I'll show you is just outside, actually. As I said before, it's quite a big house. This is maybe less useful in the winter, but we do have, don't know if you can see it, but quite a nice table tennis table and a little area for barbecues and things like that. Out here, it's in a little greenhouse. Obviously, in the winter, that's less useful. Coming back through, so that's the way to the front door. Sorry, guys. This is all the students eating.
Hello.
Yeah, so that's the evening meal. You can see there. Coming through here, I think the kitchen might be a little bit messy because they've just cooked spaghetti carbonara. So the Italian students have just been cooking in here.
The Italian students were cooking. Nice.
Yeah, we got the Italians cooking carbonara. So
sounds like it should be.
And yeah, I'll show you one. We'll go up these stairs and I'll show you one bedroom that's still free at the moment. So yeah, as you can see, it's quite large. We've got lots of toilets, lots of showers. Yeah, this bedroom's just empty at the moment. So every room has its own bed. This room actually got its own sink as well. And then you also have a desk. And you can't see it at the moment, but there's a route into the park that's next to the house.
So there's a park outside the window?
Yeah, just a nice little green space.
Wait, Harry, go back.
Yeah.
Can you show everybody the famous British faucets with the hot and cold water?
Yeah, you guys don't really have this, do you?
No.
Yeah, in England, always the taps are not together. They're always one hot and one cold.
So if you've never been to the UK, this is a mystery for everybody. One tap is freezing cold water and the other is burning hot water.
Yeah, it's exactly right. It's exactly right. And until someone told me that in Europe they didn't have it, I never noticed either. You know, it's quite a strange thing. So yeah, I'll just turn this on so that you can see me again. So yeah, that's the tour of the house.
All right, it looks nice. Cool. Thanks, Harry. Okay, so I think we're almost at time. I'll leave it, ask one more time. If anybody has any questions, you can ask now. Or if you think of something later, tomorrow, I'll send everybody Harry's contact. You can find him online, englishsteps.co.uk, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay. And if you want to take advantage of the offer, just mention Ryan, mention this webinar, and that's all you have to do. Okay, any final remarks, Harry?
No, just looking forward to meeting anyone that wants to come. Yeah, good luck in learning English and improve it.
So are you going to the kitchen now to have some spaghetti?
Yeah, I'm going down to have dinner now, yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. No questions. So, okay. Thanks again, Harry, for joining us, and enjoy your spaghetti carbonara.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
Okay, see you later.
Good night.
Bye.